this morning for joining this webinar. So it's going to be on the 10 key elements to maximise website engagement. So hopefully there'll be a few tips in here that either you guys can implement yourself, or if you've got a development agency or developer that you can use, it may be one for them. But they're tips and tricks that will help you to maximise engagement on your website for your users. Just a bit of housekeeping. So before we begin, just to let you know that we're going to be recording this webinar, so I will just start that now. And then with the recording, we'll share that with you, so that you've got a copy of the video and the slides as well, so you can go back through and have a look at the content. The video will be probably a couple of days to turn around, because we just cut it together just so that it's good for you guys to watch. So it won't be immediately after this, but it will follow up. And also, if you'd like to join in the conversation, if you find this webinar useful, you think you know somebody else that might find it useful, you want to share it, we've got at Webbox Digital and hashtag Webbox. If you can share and like, that would be absolutely fantastic. So just a bit about me. So I'm going to be your host today. So I am a business development director here at Webbox. So a bit of background on Webbox is we started in 2008. The company was started by our MD, Will. Over the last 13 years, we've been working for various different clients, such as DS Smith, Twickenham Stadium, Fever Tree Tonic, St John Ambulance, to name a few. I personally have 13 years experience as well in working in web agencies and through various different roles as well in agencies. So my background is in development and going through to sort of project management, account management, and now business development. And if you'd like to get in touch, there's more details there. And yeah, so over the next sort of 30 minutes, so we'll go through the 10 key elements that will help you to maximize website engagement. And then we'll just, I'll show you some further resources that you guys can access for free from us. And I'll go into the digital audit service that we offer as well, which is completely free. And then we'll have a chance for any questions and answers, anything that you want to go through. So sorry about that. So just to kick off, I thought we'd start with a bit of stats. So obviously the key of this is about maximizing engagement on your website. So just thought I'd put this in to make sure that you guys are engaged with the presentation. So according to a Pew Research Center survey, X% of Americans say they go online on a daily basis, with X% reporting that they go online almost constantly. So if you could just take a second and just put two numbers that you think that might fill in those gaps in the chat, we'll see who comes close to it. $19.80, good guess. $80.75, that's good, close. Good one, 75 and 50, not far off, not far off. I'll put you out of your misery. So it is 85% say that they go online on a daily basis, and 31% say they go online almost constantly. So I just thought, with those stats, it's with people being online more and more and more these days, it's key that your websites are engaging for the right reasons. And you don't want people to be spending time on your site, or a long time on your site, because they can't find what they need, or because the usability is bad and they're clicking around too much. It should be that the content and the structure and the way that it's laid out is engaging and keeping they want to stay on the site rather than they have to stay on the site. So the first one is site page speed. So this is something that's become really, really common recently, and Will actually mentioned it on his webinar over the last few months on key trends for 2022. So the reasons behind this is that it's a hugely important ranking factor these days. So Google actually changed their algorithm in last year to put a higher emphasis on page speed. The reason behind this is because it's all about user experience. So nobody wants to... Oh, hello, sorry. Nobody wants to sit and wait for a website to load, to take a long time. And there's 25% of users will abandon a page that takes more than 4 seconds to load. And each second above 4 seconds that you go, there's a 7% drop off on potential conversion. So it's hugely important that websites load quickly. Obviously, there's an element of what the user is trying to access. So not that Amazon is slow, but if someone's trying to access Amazon or maybe a Google service, they may wait longer than the 3 seconds. But if it's something that they're trying to access quickly, it might be they're in a rush, they don't necessarily know the brand. It's very important that it is fast. The mobile first design point there relates to the way that Google now rank and take content from websites is to use the mobile first version of the site. So it's very important that people concentrate on that side of it and not just have like a massively stripped down or a completely unrelated mobile website. So it's very important, and I'll just make sure that it's clear that the way they do that is if it's a new site or the site was previously unknown to Google search, it will use the mobile site first. If your site has been on there already, it will continue to use the desktop site. But yeah, it's mobile is becoming more and more of a key as well. So site speed is one of the first one. The second element is clear and precise design. So I'm sure we've all been there and we've all seen websites that are extremely busy, and it's hard to know where to look or what to focus on. What we like to call it is the look away test. So if you look away from your screen and look back at the website, where is your eye drawn? Sometimes, like I say, on sites, if they're super duper busy, it doesn't really drag your eye anywhere. It's just too much going on. So it's about making the design as clear and precise as possible. Don't make me think. So there was a great book written, it's probably about 15 years ago now, called Don't Make Me Think. And it was all about sort of design principles and layouts and structures for websites. The idea being that it should be clear what you want your user to do on the website. They don't want to think, they want to know, if you're a shop, they want to know where the filters are, how they can reorder products, how they can find more information about those products. And similarly, if you're a company that offers services, the user wants to be able to access those services and find out more information about that and then potentially inquire. One way to do this is a good use of white space. So it's something that's been talked about for years, but I think it's becoming more and more of a norm with website design. White space is the space in between the elements and the text and images on your site. So rather than cramming in as much as you can, use the white space to separate content out, give it space to breathe, and it just makes it more digestible for the user and ultimately more engaging. And highlight the menu. So if a user is trying to navigate around your site, they're going to be using the menu typically. So the menu shouldn't be hidden away. It shouldn't be like using some sort of outrageous style, unless there may be certain cases for that. But if you're looking for conversions and you're a service-based business or a product e-commerce-based business, again, you want to make that as simple as possible. If you're a creative agency, there might be a bit of license to change that, but typically it needs to be sort of clear and easy to use. Which brings us on to navigation. So obviously navigation is the whole way that users are going to get around your site and access the different content. So there's a typical rule, which is 2 to 3 clicks maximum to access any content on a website. So again, the don't make me think principle comes back in here. It's someone who's using your site. If they want to find content, they don't want to be clicking constantly or more than 3 times to get to content. It should be easily accessible at sort of any time within reach for that user. A simple navigation menu again. So I've come across it multiple times over the last 13 years, where you see bigger and bigger menus appearing on websites. So you typically would have had a single level menu, which evolved into sort of a drop-down menu. So within each of those, you could have a list. And that's then evolved into a mega menu, which is when you hover over one of the top links, you then get sort of a whole other menu with multiple links. It's trying to strip that back and keep it as simple as possible. So I've seen this as well on websites where they're service-based, and it can just be really overwhelming. So if someone doesn't necessarily know what they are looking for from you as an organization, or maybe they do, but they're just struggling to find it, it's just about being clear and making it as easy to use as possible for the user. Page and content categories. So again, keeping your content sort of organized and easy to access is another great way to engage users. So it may be that you have a news and events page. And so the news and events are listed in the same area, and they may have different categories as well. So you could have a filter for just show events, just show news. You could have a filter for sort of latest news or priority news. And it's a way of again, allowing your user to access that content as quickly as possible. And search. So this obviously isn't going to be applicable for everybody, but on e-commerce sites, it's the key way that people will find content. If you know what you're looking for, a search for the user is a great tool to access content. A little tip on the search is that adding an auto suggest or a type ahead, it can be called as well, is hugely beneficial in terms of user engagement and user experience. So, I mean, you've seen it on just the same, what Google uses, Amazon uses, is when you start to type your search term, it will drop down and make suggestions based on what you're typing. So if you don't have that and you're not necessarily sure what you're looking for, it can, if you hit a page that has no search results, it's not as helpful as if you see similar topics for what you're typing in the auto suggest. You can select one of those and ultimately get to the content you need to. So it's just removing that sort of failure point for the user. And number 4 is links non-menu. So this is similar to navigation, but it's just navigation off of the menu. So here I've shown some examples at the top where we've got from the Webbox website, we've got links in the content to certain areas. So whether that's get in touch or the page about UX design, as well as a call to action here, which is about, again, getting in touch with us. So yes, content-based links, and it improves the linking structure. So again, obviously you've got your navigation at the top, but if someone is engaged with your content and they're reading about what you do, adding those links to the text or to blocks or service areas, it just allows the user to access that content easier. So they may not know that is there. Obviously, like a get in touch link is a good way to create a conversion and get them to get in touch with you and ask questions. And it just generally improves that linking structure around the site. It means that the user doesn't have to keep going back to the menu to access content. And using descriptive anchor text is a key here. So there's I'll go into that a little bit more there's a call to action section. So it's things like, rather than just sort of saying click here or like read this, it's using language which is more descriptive. So it's, get in touch with us, or find out more about this service, or it's one of the things as well is where you may have services in a menu. It can be better to break that down. Obviously, it could depend on how many services you have, but break that down into navigation with the actual name of the services you're offering. That can improve SEO, and again, it's good for the user because they can see straight away what you're offering and where that content is. And content itself. So content is a kind of a key one, and it's quite interesting, and the research that I looked into for this section of the webinar, there's studies that actually show that the key or the most engaging length, as in the most time spent on a page, was when the content was between 1,000 and 2,500 words. Now that seems like quite a lot, but it was almost double the time spent from pages that had 750 to 1,000 words. So that kind of extra 250 words made a huge difference in terms of engagement on the page. One thing that we suggest and recommend here at Webbox is when people are creating blog posts, you kind of get a mix of two, where people will create lots of blog posts with sort of small content chunks just to kind of keep it updated, or they'll post more infrequently, you know, like every month, every couple of months. What we kind of recommend is that you go for the more maybe monthly sort of pillar piece of content. So make this longer piece of content, which can then be split out and used in different social channels. So again, it's something to share. So if you've got a longer piece of content, you can take elements out of that and use that to drive traffic back to that article and your site through different social channels. And it's sort of like, you know, you can reuse it a bit more than a smaller blog post. As far as the content itself, so structuring it can be key as well. So I'm sure you've all been to website pages where they can be quite long in text, but it literally is just a massive block of text. It's not very interesting and it's not very engaging for the user to read. So it's things like using images, pulling out quotes, using headings to break that content down, almost in a more sort of article-based layout. And it just, yeah, it makes it more digestible, it makes it more interesting for the user, especially with imagery, things like that. And it's using the correct tone. So obviously a tone will be specific to your business and your offerings, but it's getting that tone right. So for your business, are you speaking to your target audience or your audience that are on the site in the correct way? Also, is your content focused on you as a business, or is it just focused on the prospects and the client? So, you know, a great tip can be to, when you're writing your content, say how you can solve challenges and help people, you know, fix things, or if they've got a challenge, how you're going to resolve that as a company, rather than necessarily talking about what you do. It's like how that actually helps, and that will help engage users with your content. Number 6 is mobile friendly. So again, going back to number 1 with the page speed, mobile is becoming more and more important. Google have a huge focus on it, and you know, more and more people are using their mobile phones to access the internet these days. So consider content layout. So what I mean here is that a lot of websites today will be responsive, and essentially what happens is that the desktop version will be designed, and the mobile version is almost an afterthought, where it's just a squished down version of the desktop site. And you know, a lot of the times that can be fine, but it's thinking about things like, if you've got sort of header banners or big images, do you necessarily need it on the mobile site? It may be that the structure and the content can be laid out slightly differently on the mobile site, making it easier to read, or easier to you know, add call to actions, or for someone to contact the business. So it's just being more considerate with that content layout, and not just thinking of it as almost an afterthought once you've got your desktop site. So mobile first design as well. So this can be kind of a tricky concept as well. And I think it will become more and more common, but we are seeing clients now as well that want to do mobile first design. So that means it's where we would traditionally do a desktop version of the site, and then, like I say, the mobile site might be slightly of an afterthought, or more based on that desktop design. It's starting with that mobile design first. So you create those designs, and those get approved, and then you move on to the desktop design, which for some people can be a bit a bit odd because we're so used to seeing desktop sites. It can just be a bit of a strange concept to go mobile first. But I think getting a balanced approach between them two is probably the best option. So it's making sure that neither of them are an afterthought; they're both carefully considered. Like I say, responsive design there. So the responsive design just means that the website will change its sort of shape and layout based on the screen size it's on. So whether that's on a desktop computer, whether it's on a tablet in landscape or portrait, and as well on a mobile phone device, landscape or portrait, the site responds to those sizes and changes shape, which can be great because when new devices are released or new screen sizes come out, you don't need to like completely redesign something for your website. It should adjust and work on those screen sizes. But again, it's just making sure the content is correct on there. And like I say, it could be a whole other topic on its own here. So that may be a webinar for the future. So we'll see. And number 7 is clear call to actions. So ultimately, whether you're an e-commerce website or a service-based website, you want prospective clients or current clients to convert on your site. So whether that's purchasing an item or whether it's getting in touch and becoming a lead. So just got a few examples here from our website. So we've got our free digital audit link here. We've got find out more links here on past works, and the let's start the conversation link down here. Key things to these are using clear instructions, using commanding language, and making them big, bright and bold in design. So by using clear instructions and commanded language is what I was saying earlier in terms of don't just have it sort of like click me or a really short piece of text. Make it more obvious what it's going to do. So if a user looks at it, they want to know sort of what they're going to get or what they're going to gain by clicking on this link. It makes it a bit more interesting, it makes it more engaging, it's more likely that they're going to click on it and go through to the next page. So, whether that's let's get in touch, let's start the conversation, sign up for your free digital audit, whatever that might be. It's making sure that that's clear. And big, bright, bold design. Obviously, you don't want these call to actions to just fade into the rest of the content on your site. They should stand out, and it should be really obvious and clear for the user where they can click and which elements are call to actions and interactive in that way. Number 8 is a chat box. So there are a couple of different versions of this. So you've got chat box and there's a chat bot. So I think I guess to clear up the difference is a chat box is more actually run by a user, so within your business. So a chat bot would be more sort of AI driven, and you may have come across them before. I can find them a bit hard work personally when I've used them, where you may ask a question and there'll be a bank of sort of stock answers but in the background. The AI will analyze the customer's question and then serve them back a response. Which can work, but it's just not quite as personable, and you can't always get the correct answer that you need back. Whereas a chat box would mean that there would be someone from your business on the other side of it when available to answer questions for a user. So, it can be great for instant connection. So in terms of if someone's browsing your website and they may have a question that they either haven't found on the site or that it's not answered, rather than going to the contact page or ringing you or sending an email, they can click on the chat box and just sort of instantly ask that question, and they can see if someone's available and come back. Don't make it intrusive. So the classic position for these things will be sort of bottom left or bottom right hand corner of the web page. You don't want it to be floating up in the middle and in their face, interrupting their actual journey on the website. It's just there as an additional element that they can use. Adding an image and name can be great in terms of making it, again, more sort of human and personal. So the image, is sort of, it could be, I've seen some on websites recently where it's an image of the face of the people that are on the other side of it, and it has their name on it. So it will say, such and such is available, so you can click on that and chat to them if possible. So it doesn't look, again, like a bot. It's like you're speaking to an actual human being. Again, let's sort of like make it clear for the user. So one thing that can go against this is if nobody is available to be on the other side of the chat box, because, you know, people can be busy and there may not be someone available, especially if it's sort of late into the evening. You can leave the element there, but just make sure that it's clear that there's no one available. So if someone comes looking for that, or they click on it, the functionality will be that they can still ask their question, but it will sort of be emailed to you to answer at a later date. It won't be that sort of instant response. So yeah, again, it's just making sure that's clear so that the users don't have a bad experience when they go onto that chat box. Number 9 is data collection. So at the end of the day, data is king with all this, all of these elements. So these are some tools listed here that we've used at Webbox. So Google Analytics, you know, a lot of websites will be using that. Hotjar and Google Search Console. So or using these tools, I'll explain a little bit more about them in a second. Using these tools will build up a picture of how people are using your website, which then in turn helps you to make these data-driven decisions as to what you want to change or update on the website. So it's, you know, it's not a case of going, let's move this button to the left and see what happens. It's looking at the data and seeing how people are interacting with that button. Are they just missing it completely, or you know, it helps make that decision better based on actual user behavior. So Google Analytics is a tool that you can install on your site, and it will track sort of page views, page visits, and it gives you things like bounce rate. So how do people visit a page and then just leave the site immediately? It measures session time, so how long people actually stay on each page. And it's sort of like location and journey through the site as well. So you can get all this usage data about the pages on your website. Hotjar is a user behavior tool. So when you install this on your site, what it will do is each time someone comes to your website, it will track their journey. So essentially it tracks their mouse through while they're using your website. So as more and more users come to your website, and this builds up a picture of what's being done on the site and how it's being interacted with, it will build you a heat map. So you can select it over a period of time, and it will show things like mouse clicks, so where people are hovering with their mouse the most, what elements they're clicking on. It'll also show you things like scroll. So it may be that, you know, that people only get 2/3 of the way down your page and they never get to the footer. They may scroll a certain way, and that's where you've got your services just below, but no one's actually getting to it. So again, it helps build up this image of how people are navigating and scrolling and using your site and what they're looking at. To help you make those decisions in terms of, should we rearrange this content, should we move this here, and yeah, rather than just being a bit of a shot in the dark. And then Google Search Console again is a data gathering tool which can help you look at what people are searching for to help you tailor your content. So you can see kind of search terms around your business, around your sector. And then you can tailor your content for that and make it more engaging and see what people are actually looking for. And that brings us on to as well A/B testing. So this is a similar kind of thing to the data gathering, but ever so slightly different. So what this allows you to do is test different versions of pages that, for your user audience. So if you have 100 visitors to your site, for 50 of them you can serve a version A of your website, and 50 of them you can serve version B of your website. You can then gather the data and look at how, you know, whether it's conversions or sales. You can see how it's performed, and it helps you make these informed decisions on what you want to do. And it could be something as simple as making a button red or blue. It could be showing different imagery or a video versus an image, and it's using that data to like hone your user experience in the day and the engagement on the website. So This kind of technology is used by big, massive companies such as sort of Facebook and Instagram. I mean, if you've been on Facebook, you'll know over the years the content and the layout of it has constantly sort of evolved and changed. And I remember where people would say, "Oh, I've got this version of my Facebook page," and you had a slightly different version. And that was then testing these to make it as engaging as possible and keep users using their services at the end of the day. And you know, it's a data-based approach. So again, it's not just thinking, "Oh, I'd rather that button be here than there, and I think this should go here." It's looking at the data, looking at how people are actually using your website, and making those informed decisions so that you can maximize engagement and ultimately you know, lead to more sales and more conversions. So that's the top 10 tips. Hopefully you guys found that useful. This resource that you will also get access to after the webinar is 22 must-haves for your website in 2022. So these are things that are related to, you know, latest trends, best practices, and some of these elements will be in there as well. We put this together internally at Webbox, and we talked to lots of different sort of like market researchers and put it together, and we feel it's a really good a tool to use. So we'll give you access to that. And also just to touch on the website audit. So we offer a free service of auditing your website or PPC campaigns. And it's a different approach. So we don't put your site through a tool and just see what it pumps out and give you that as a report. We'll use our expertise and we'll go through your site and we'll look at kind of best practices through design and UX. And we also look at page speed and things like accessibility. So we'll put that together in a slide deck for you, and we report that back to you as well over a Zoom call. And the guys that I've run that with find it really useful and have had some great feedback. So if you're interested in that, that's the URL there, and you can also access it on our website, just in the top right hand corner. And yeah, if you guys have got any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Cool, no problem, guys. I think, yeah, hopefully you guys found that useful. Like I say, there's certain elements that you guys will be able to implement, sort of like the content areas, and even some of the tools can sort of just be plugged in, and it's looking at that kind of data element. So hopefully you've got things like Google Analytics that you can utilize. Cool, good. I think again, yeah, and if you know anybody that you think will find that useful, it'd be great if you could share it. I'm going to be running it over the next sort of couple of months as well. So yeah, just let me know if you can spread the word. That'd be great. I think if anyone does have any questions, feel free to get in touch. I'll be more than happy to help out and answer anything. The video, it should be available by sort of mid next week. That's a great question. So a site filled with images, yeah, it could get chunky to load. So a key to sort of concentrate on that as well. So it will be obviously a balance again, getting between sort of text and imagery. Yeah, the video will be sent to you to access, Carl. Yeah. So yeah, sorry, it's getting that balance between imagery and sort of like text content, and whether you put videos in there as well. So with imagery, you want to make sure that it's sort of the right size for the device that the user is using. So where I was saying earlier around the sort of responsive site design, what you'll find sometimes is that you'll get huge banner images, which can be sort of like 3 or 4 meg, which is too big anyway. And when you go down to the mobile site, it's still using that same 3 or 4 meg image on the mobile site, which is just hugely over the top. Doesn't need to be that big. So there are sort of next generation image formats that you can use. There's one from Google called WebP, and it's about compressing the images as small as possible. So like I say, it's about getting the kind of size and ratio right in terms of that, the image shouldn't be like 6,000 pixels by 6,000 pixels. It should be relevant to a desktop at most, and also using as good a compression as you can, so that it loads quickly. There's a tool, if anyone's using WordPress, there's a tool called Nitro Pack, which can be really useful. So what that essentially does is takes all the assets from your site, so images and sort of JavaScript styling, all that sort of stuff, and it creates a cache of them, like around the world, which means that when people are viewing the site, they don't necessarily get the site from the server that you are on hosting the website. It can come from these cache, which is essentially just saving a version of the site. And what that does image-wise is it will create different size versions of those images for you, kind of does the legwork for you, and it will serve a mobile relevant image size to a mobile and a desktop relevant one to a desktop. So there's tools and things like that you can use. So it's about compressing those images to make sure that they're good quality, but as small file size as possible, and getting that balance between not too many images and not too much text as well. Is WordPress still the best way to build a new website with SEO in mind? So I think WordPress is a great kind of a great tool for many people to use as a website platform. So it's because it's open source and it's used massively now. It's definitely good in terms of SEO. I think there can be different issues with WordPress in terms of how it may be set up. So we do use WordPress, and we have guys that work with WordPress in Webbox. But when we work on a WordPress site, we take certain steps when it's installed and set up to make sure that things like security patches are in place. But I think in terms of SEO, it has all the elements of your meta tags, your data, and I think ultimately the kind of the initial steps for SEO are making sure that the site is fast to load, which WordPress can do that, but again, it can come down to your kind of server specifications, like the question we had there in terms of like image size and data size. So it can be, it's definitely a good platform to use, and kind of like a base. So if you wanted to build a website with sort of bespoke functionality or plugins, it's really good for that, with it being open source. So I think, hopefully that answers your question. I don't think it's necessarily good. It's better than anything else in terms of SEO, because you can still put all the same practices into other plugins or other CMSs, sorry. But it's as in terms of sort of accessibility and getting a site set up, WordPress is definitely a good platform to use. Yeah, great. So unless anyone fires another question in the next couple of seconds. No problem. Thanks, guys. Like I say, if you've got any other questions, feel free to get in touch. That's my contact details there. My email and LinkedIn account. It'd be great to connect with you guys. Hopefully you found that useful. And like I say, we'll be in touch in the next week or so with the video and access to those resources for you as well.